Good afternoon. On behalf of A Better Jamaica, I am Gail Lewis, and it is my pleasure today to sit down with the candidates for Council District 27 here in Queens. A Better Jamaica Meet the Candidate series for District 27, aka another chance to strut your stuff. So today we're going to ask the candidates not to answer in sound bites or the traditional bullet points, but instead, this is a focus on interviewing the candidates so that they can tell their stories. We can learn about their values and their backgrounds and their vision for District 27. So it's my pleasure right now to welcome Marie Adam-Ovide. Good afternoon, Marie.
Good afternoon, Gail. Thank you for having me. Thank you for Better Jamaica for putting this together. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Thanks. And for fairness, I'm calling everyone candidate and their name so that no one has any advantage over the other. So let's get started. Candidate Adam-Ovide. First, every good story starts with, well, every good fairy tale starts with once upon a time. So once upon a time, candidate Adam-Ovide, let's hear your personal story. Let's start with where you were born and who were you born to?
I was born in Haiti in 1971, and my parents, Pierre Adam and Marita Gentil and Adam, um, raised me only for about 2 years and came to the United States and left me with two aunts. One of them happens to be a principal, the other happens to be a teacher. So I think that's probably why schools are so important to me. And they lived over here and worked very hard and were able to send for us. So I came here in 1986 at 14 years old, having seen my parents for like 12 years. They were like strangers to me in a sense. But I had to get acclimated. I went to Tilden High School in Brooklyn.
So you lived in Brooklyn when you first came here?
I lived in Brooklyn. So to make a long story short, I went to City College. My mom passed away. I stopped going to school. Then I moved to Southeast Queens, Queens Village, me and my now husband to start off. My husband always liked Southeast Queens and didn't care for Brooklyn very much. So that's where we moved here to start our new life together. Then I went
All right, so I have a
to
couple of
school.
questions.
I went back to
I have a couple, wait. I have a couple of questions to just fill in with that. So where in Haiti were you born? Because you can't say Haiti to Southeast Queens. You gotta be more specific. You can't say Port-au-Prince either, because everyone's from Port-au-Prince. You gotta tell us where in
I actually
Haiti.
am. I actually was born in, I actually was born in Port-au-Prince, but my mom is from a southern town named Leogan. And my father was born in Patronville, which is like up in the hills of where Port-au-Prince is. So.
And how many brothers and sisters?
Well, I have a total of 10, but we're all together 10. Well, now we're left with 8 because 2 of them passed away. One passed away with cancer. The other one had issues with circulation and everything and passed. But they weren't all my mom's children. My father was married first and had 6 children. Her wife died and we married my mother. And we have 4 children, my mother. I'm actually the youngest.
That was my
if we're counting all the children, if we're counting all the children that were ever born, I'm actually the 12th child. And I really think the number 12 must be something very special to me because I'm the 12th child and I was born on the 12th month, on the 12th day, and I'm on the ballot listed number 12.
Oh, get out. That is just, you're lucky. That is just nothing
I'm
but
thinking
kismet.
it must be a lucky number.
That is wonderful. Thank you for telling us that. So you are one of 12 who were born, but 10 total.
Yes.
And came here in 1986. What was your first impression of the United States when you got here? Because you were 12?
We didn't all come here at that time. You know, the oldest came first.
Right.
Me and my brother, Mike Lee, were the last one to come because you couldn't send for everybody
Right,
at
all
once.
come.
Yes. And,
So when you came at 12, what was your first impression?
you know, I guess I can talk about school because everyone said that I'm very quiet. And I don't, you know, and I didn't think so because when I was in school in Haiti, they said that I talked a lot. So, so people thought that I was very timid, but I'm not. I think I've taken things first because before I say something, so maybe that's why they had that impression. But what I thought was really strange was how everyone seemed to be in a hurry. I remember going shopping at A&S with my oldest sister, Mireille, and people were just walking so fast. And I thought something was going on. And I asked him, what's going on? Why is everybody walking so fast? He goes, that's how it is. So step it up. Yeah.
It's not that they're walking fast, it's that you're walking slow.
No, exactly. And actually, I remember going back to Haiti years ago, and they were saying to me, why are you walking so fast? And I'm like, I'm a New Yorker now.
There you go. I've become one. That's a great story. So then you said that you went to City College, and then you had to leave City College before you graduated. What was your first major there when you started at City College?
I went there to become an architect. And then it didn't happen. And I ended up doing political science. I think a lot had to do with NIPERG, because NIPERG had a lot of things going on, and they invited us to, you know, sign petitions and try to get the cost of, you know, I think at the time they were raising our tuitions. So there was like a NIPERG campaign to get people to sign signatures, to stop, you know, things from, and I think that's how I ended up with political science. Ended up, you know, learning about government, and that became my major.
And then you left school and then went back and finished. What happened in there? I know your mom was sick.
No, well, my mom passed. She had cancer. And then afterwards, you know, went back to school. Actually, one of my brother, Patrick, also had cancer. And on his sickbed, he made my husband promise that I would.
Were you married at that time? Or was he your boyfriend?
We weren't married yet, yes.
Okay.
He made him promise that I would go to school and I would finish. And he said to my now husband, you know, she's too smart not to finish school, right?
Oh, that's such a nice thing.
Yes.
So you
unfortunately,
went
you know,
back.
I went back and I finished. And my last semester, I needed to do something called internship in city government.
Right.
And
Very familiar.
we talked to a lot of, we talked to a lot of different local officials trying to set my resume in. And the only person who responded to me at the time was David Weprin. He wasn't yet a council member. He was running for the position. And, you know, he's the only one who responded. And another person responded, Toby Stavisky, but then she was at the state. So I didn't go to her office, and I started working with David Weprin's campaign.
What year was that?
That was 2001. That was 2001. Actually, it was the end of 2001. It was in 2000. It was in 2000, and then 2001. So when he actually won, the night that he won, I'm the first person he hired to work for him. Yes.
What a great,
it was a campaign night, and he says, Marie, would you like to work for me? And I said, absolutely, for money.
I get paid. Wow. That's great. And so you started working. What was your first position with him?
Actually, before that, I worked with Sheldon Leffler for a short while because he was running for the board president's office at the time. So I worked for him from like the last 6 months of his term in 2001. And then in 2002, in January, that's when I started with David. So I did, just an aide doing constituent work. That's how I started with Sheldon. And one thing that I learned from Sheldon is that when people would come to his office, um, he had a sign that says, you don't always need to speak to the men in charge, but you can speak to the women who do the work. And he had a lot of women working in his office. He had a lot of women working in his office, but then he always welcome anyone in his office. Then they'll come in, speak to them, and then we'll direct them to the person that he felt would best be able to handle the issue. But at David Workman's office, I started out as a scheduler, and he was the chair of the finance committee. And then you're thinking, oh, it's a scheduler. It's nothing. People have no idea how much work
Scheduler
the scheduler does.
Runs the place, basically.
Yes. Yes. So the funny question was, oh, Marie, how do you like the scheduling? I said, oh, the scheduling is great. It's the rescheduling that's the problem. Because he had so many people wanting to meet with him, and you have to shovel this person and that person. And little did I know, I was pregnant with my youngest, Olivia. So at the end of that year, I went on maternity leave. And then when I came back, he wanted me to work in the Manhattan office with him. And I wanted to be close to my daughter, to my family. I was breastfeeding. So I decided to take a different position and work in constituent services.
In the Queen's office.
In the local office, yes. And then I was later on, I was promoted to director of constituent services when I was in charge of the other people doing constituent work. So it is very rewarding work to see someone come in with a problem and be able to resolve it and help them. I mean, that is so rewarding. And so also teach other people how to do it.
Yeah. And then how long were you director of constituent services?
It was for a few years, and then Diane Cohen at Community Board 8, she was retiring, and the position became available. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to work for Community Board 8. I was hoping that Sally Fisher would retire, so I would work for Board 13 because I wanted to work in my own community. But that wasn't what was available. I mean, sometimes we plan and God laughs.
So exactly.
That's how I ended up. So I wasn't one of the first people to send the resume. I pretty much waited towards the end to send it because everybody kept saying, Marie, you're gonna do great at that job. Apply for it. I said, but that's not where I want to be. I want to be in Southeast Queens.
Closer to home.
Yes, but I applied. And I got the position, and I think it's been great working there, but I still felt like my heart, not all of it was there, and I always wanted to try to get back to Southeast Queens.
So how long were you with, are you still with Community Board now that you're running, and how long were you there?
I've been there for now 14 years. I'm still there. I've taken all my vacation days to run. So I'm on annual leave right now.
Okay, you got 14 years of sick leave. That's great.
Yes.
And what do you do in that position? I think a lot of people know city council, assembly, state senate, but I don't think people realize what goes on at the community board. So what is your position in community board, and what do you do there?
Yeah. As a district manager, I'm the one in charge of the office. So we have 50 community board members who are volunteers. They meet a few times a month. There's one general board meeting for everyone, but then there are public hearings and everything that goes on. And I'm the one who was the wheel that turns everything. My main concern, really, the main thing that I do is to ensure that we have the proper delivery of city services for that district. And every month, I meet with all the agency heads or their representatives to discuss issues with transportation, with sanitation, with the police, any issue that would come up. We sit there, we discuss them, we plan on how to better resolve them. And a lot of times, Department of Environmental Protection, DEP, and Department of Transportation, a lot of times, they do this when we have questions or things for them. So then we have
go see him,
at the table to come up with solutions. So that's like the main focus of what I do on a day-to-day basis. But then I also set up the board meetings, make sure that I schedule the public hearings, make sure that we send information out to the public. And one thing that we do at Community Board 8, we actually send mailers to everybody who is an affected person. We go if we have a zoning change, a BSA, and
Right.
we actually send out even more mailers than most of the other districts. For example, if I have a building, I don't have the list of all the apartments. I send a packet, but I know the number of apartments. Let's say they have 100 apartments. I'll send a packet with 100 notices that I send to the superintendent or whoever's in charge if it's a co-op, and we send it certified to ensure that now
They
it's
got
their
it. Right.
responsibility to share that information. And we also prepare our budget priorities that I assist with that, because it's based on what we hear from the agencies, what the concerns from the residents are. We plan our budget priorities, and these are our recommendations that's sent to the board president's office, that we send to the mayor and the Office of Management and Budget as to where we believe they should be spending their capital and expense dollars. So I'm very familiar with the budget process with the city of New York on that respect. And of course, at David Weprin's office as a council member, I was also familiar with the budget process on that end, because he was the chair of the finance committee, and a lot of meetings from agencies, from different groups, trying to influence and try to have a budget that would help them in their community or their endeavors.
So for people who are not familiar, your community board covers what geographic area, what towns?
It covers Holliswood, Jamaica Estates, Briarwood, Jamaica Hill, Kew Gardens Hills, Flushing Heights, Fresh Meadows. That it's pretty much from Hillside Avenue to the Long Island Expressway, and from the Venwick Expressway to I guess about 212 Street or so.
Wow, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Well, we have a little bit less. We have less people at the community boards than we have at the city council, but it's not a huge difference. We have about 170 people or so, and I think the district is about 200,000 people.
Okay, and it's not far either. It's it's
No.
right up the road.
No, we actually borders the district, because we share part of Hillside Avenue. The 27 council district also goes all the way to the Hillside Avenue in certain parts.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So we kind of have a little overlap. So you're familiar. So you talked a lot about the things that you have been doing. So how big a move does running for elected office represent from what you're doing right now?
I think it's being able to get to the voters, really, and to get them to vote for you, which is different than applying for a position at the community board, because you have a committee of 7 people who interview you and say, well, we recommend you, and then the board usually goes along with that. So with this, is really trying to explain what I do as a community board, and try to explain to people in the community who are not even familiar with what community boards are, and how that experience helps with the city council. The only thing that I haven't done is actually put legislation in and make it happen. But I have proposed legislation, and I tell you, one way you know how to make something happen, why you need legislation, is when the tools that you have at your disposal right now do not work. When I was pregnant and I had my first baby, I remember going and looking for, I'm always the one going and changing my baby, right? Mm-hmm. Because if my husband is with, there's no folding tables for you to change your baby, right? So when for the men. So when I was at David Weprin's office, and I remember saying, well, you know what, I think we should have them in both bathrooms, both male and female. And I think that we could start that by doing it in the city agencies first. We'll do that and then expand it. But at the time, he wasn't really interested in that. And I remember going home and telling my husband, you see, I proposed this to David, but he's really not really interested. And I think that if it
Right.
was a woman, if it was a mother, she'll probably do it, you know?
Mhm.
But to be honest, he also had a chief of staff who didn't think it was a good idea either and took him out of it.
Okay.
So that these are the kind of things that actually pushes you as a woman, as a mother, to run for positions because you need to be represented as a, you know, at the city council, at any state, city, state, or federal legislature, because we see needs that they may not see.
Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Which kind of brings me to my next question. Who's your husband? What does he do? And tell me about your kids,
Well, my husband actually was.
other than drive that truck that we see going around the neighborhood. What does your husband really do?
Well, he can't really go door to door knocking because he had a work injury, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
he worked for SCIU as a, what do you call it, a, he was first a shop steward, and then he became like a someone with a union who try to recruit people and things like that. So that's what he does. So he's very personable, people person, very persuasive, you know, and all he's sad about is that he doesn't have his full um, body. His body cannot do what he would like it to do. So that's all he can do sometimes, drive the truck. So that's what he does to help me. But my children, Alex, who's my gift from my husband, my stepson, he's a Marine veteran.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Very nice. How
yes,
old is he?
he's 33. He's
Mhm.
33. And my son, Patrick, is in University at Albany this year graduating. And
Oh,
my
congrats.
daughter, and my daughter is also at University at Albany, but she opted to come back and stay home this year. It was very sad. She had no college experience, like
Oh.
you would imagine, you know, just sitting
Mhm.
in a room, you know, and feeling very unhappy. So I'm looking forward to things opening up in
For her.
September,
Yeah.
so she can go back and actually
Next year,
enjoy.
she'll be sophomore, junior.
Yeah, sophomore.
Okay.
Sophomore. Yeah, she graduated last year from Forest Hills High School.
Oh, nice. What is she studying in college?
She's a little bit undecided, but I think that she's thinking about public policy. She has been, I have to tell you, Olivia said, well, mom, just because you're my mom doesn't mean that I'm just gonna vote for you. You're gonna have to earn my vote. So I kind of love that.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
we had very strong discussions about certain issues, which is very interesting. You know, trying to give me the young people's point of view of things. But she's one of my supporters. Has been working very hard with the campaign. She's out there, very good surrogate.
Oh, nice.
You
Very
know,
nice.
very good surrogate. And I think she may end up going in public service or running for office one day because I see her out there. She doesn't see it yet, but I see it in her because she's passionate, she's compassionate, she cares about people and wants to see people's lives better.
Following in her mom's footsteps.
Yeah.
Very nice. So who would you, well, let me go back to what you're saying about the changing tables in the men's rooms, which eventually became a thing, a law. But if when we'll say when you are elected, what is the very first piece of legislation that you can't wait to get passed?
Well, I think right now the senior citizen homeowners exemption for homeowners, I think the amount of money is about 50 or so $1,000. That would be something that we could actually have it a little bit you know, higher, because $50,000 is not a whole lot of money to live on as a senior citizen who has so many expenses. And because the thing is, it's not just one, it's not per senior, it's for a couple. Think about it, you know, have two people, they have medical bills. They sometimes they have to pay somebody to help them around the house. There are things that they spending on And they shouldn't have to choose between food and paying their bills. I think helping seniors with their property taxes is a big deal. As I go around and speak to seniors, they do complain about that. You know, additionally, they say that not only that they feel that they're not getting the services for the amount of taxes that they're
Right.
paying, but they feel that it really hurts them because it's not just the tax rate, but when we evaluate their homes, sometimes it's higher than it should be. So that is something that I would like to work on, and even as the way we determine how much money that you pay for a one family home. And that's something that I think that's needed.
So property tax reform and also the senior property tax
Exemption.
rebate or exemption. I forget what they call it.
Senior
But those are
citizen homeowners exemption, SCHE.
right. Mhm. So increasing that,
Yes.
increasing the exemption.
Increasing the salary cap.
Mhm. Great. So who would you, so what would you say are the number one, number two, and number three greatest issues in District 27 right now?
Well, there are so many issues, and I've said equity because I feel that we do not have equitable resources when it comes to schools, and schools are important. We don't have the same, it just, I have to say, even basic services that help our quality of life, we do not have the same resources. Uh, and people said, well, how are you going to ensure um, that we get the services? And I said, well, as district manager of Community Board 8, that's what I fight about. I go to the
Right.
agencies and I fight for resources. Somebody wanted a speed bump and it's not happening. I hammer. Well, some people might think of it as harass. um, Commissioner Garcia, where's my speed bump? Where's my stop sign?
Right.
And I had one representative from an agency who said, well, Maria, I really like that you're always following up and keeping us on our toes. And I think we need somebody to do that and not just be lackadaisy about the things that you need for your community. I think that's very important, to always hammer and push and ask and make sure that you get what you need. And one of the ways to do that is to actually show them. I know that other community boards, they have their residents call 311, give us a number, and then we'll follow up. At Community
Right.
Board Date, we do more than that. If they do that, that's fine. But if they call us and tell us that we have this issue, we don't tell them call 311 and call us back. We make the calls to 311. We put in the complaints ourselves because we know what the agency is looking for. And then we follow up. And at times we do site visits. All my staff, they all drive. They do site visits. They take pictures. It's one thing for you to file a complaint. Let's say there's something wrong with the tree, and it takes 30 days for them to respond to you. And then 30 days later, they said condition not found. It is a
Right.
totally different story when I send a picture of the condition and I send it to the agency. The only thing they can
Directly.
tell me is when they're gonna do it, and they can't tell me they didn't find the condition. So we find ways to make sure that the agencies are working for us.
So the problems, again, we had schools was the first one, basic service, access to basic services was the second, and then what's the third biggest issue or problem in the district right now?
Our small businesses and our commercial strips. That's something that I really think needs help. I know that we will need to have the businesses on board, and I'm hoping for community pressure from the people who live in the neighboring houses. Because I look at Linden Boulevard, look at both sides of Linden Boulevard. It looks horrible. Why can't Linden Boulevard look like Austin Street? Why can't it look like we can find bids to help the businesses. I know they have to first be on board. They have to,
Right.
That's something that I think the businesses will see will actually help them. And if a business is not on board, the people in the neighborhood can just go and say, well, I hear that you're the businesses who doesn't want to get on board with trying to get a bid and making our areas look the way they should. Um, this is the choice you have. We don't have to patron your grocery store. We don't have to patron your restaurant. We can go to another restaurant. And I think that's something that we must do. We hold people accountable for how things look. You know, I have a campaign office right on Hollis Avenue, and I've only been there, well, about a month or so, and I noticed how terrible the sanitation service is. I had
You
to
mean
contact,
along Hollis Avenue? Mhm.
right, right. Um, they come in and pick up the sanitation, and they just leave everything, and it looks terrible. And a few times, me and my daughter and some of my staff, we go out and then we clean in front of the office, and we often clean the whole block because we
Oh,
realize if you only clean in front of your office and then the wind blows, it comes right back to you, so it doesn't really help. And the Vora's dance studio also, I see them as people that are cleaning up in front of their properties. And actually speaking to the corner store and tell them, listen, you got to do something, you got to help out, because it's not something that one person does alone. Once one person is doing it and they're asking others to do it, it's the collective, and that's how we make change. And it is possible. There are basic things that we can do. And I actually, and something that I wanted to discuss, I made a decision, speaking to my husband and, crunching our numbers. I've decided that I'm going to donate 50% of my salary back to the community, because I want to have the young people get involved with the civic groups. A lot of them are older folks. And at one point, they're not going to be here any longer. I'm not going to be here at some point, but we have to prepare the young people to take over and be able to
so you would donate
ownership.
half of your salary back to the community, in what capacity? So toward what? So what specifically to help young people get into civics, or what would you like to see that money? How would you like to see it funneled back into the community?
My focus is on beautification, because I see a lot of areas that they don't really need a lot, but just a little bit. A lot of times the council members give $5,000 to a group or $10,000 to a group. And I know that half of my salary is about $74,000. It's not a lot, but then we have 7 neighborhoods. Let's say that we're able to put $10,000 to each neighborhood to do something to beautify it. If we have an eyesore somewhere, and I know it takes time sometimes to get the city to do certain things. So this community fund, I call it a community fund or community first fund. The people from the area have input. They'll reach out and say, this is Marie, this is what's going on. We have this issue. What can we do? And then we can have the civic group, organize a civic group along with the students who may get, I think they need credit for school for being part of a project. I even spoke to a gentleman who said, oh, that would be wonderful if I can find a place to have in the summer and have a garden and have the kids involved in botany or something like that. So as I'm going around the neighborhood and I'm talking to people, and then they're giving me ideas, and then there was one person said, well, you're doing it for the young and the civic association, what about the seniors? And I said, well, that's interesting. That's something we could also do, because having the young people do partner with the senior citizen and older folks, then they can see that the seniors are not, oh, these old folks that don't know what they're talking about, they're old and whatever. They need to see that they have value, they
and vice versa,
knowledge that they can share. And
exactly.
then the older people sometimes will put the young people aside, can now listen to the young people and say, oh, wow, they're seeing things differently than we are. But then, hey, listen, I know sometimes if I'm stuck and I can't do something on my phone, I need a young person. So, we all have something to contribute. And I think that's my idea of community first, like having us together and making things better for where we live.
Awesome. Who knows you best? Candidate Adam-Ovide.
I would say my husband, because my husband, I would say, is my best friend.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your husband, what was his name again? I forget. I'm sorry.
Robinson. His first name is
Rob
Robinson. Yes.
Robinson. Okay, so your husband Robinson. Shout out to Robinson, the guy who drives the truck around the neighborhood. So, what would Robinson say is your greatest strength?
I would say that I care about people. I would say that's what he would say, and I would say that he would say that because he said that. Sometimes he said you care a little too much, but then I said it. Okay. you know, yes.
Mhm. And what would Robinson say is your greatest weakness and why?
He says that you need to be more boastful. You need to talk about yourself, all the, when I went in school in Haiti, went to Catholic school, they said all that Catholic school nonsense about being you humble, humble, humble. They're not gonna vote for the humble person. You need to be able to talk about what you do and say who you are and show your knowledge. Um, you know, I think that's probably what he would say because he says it to me all the time.
Okay. And 4 years from now, you're in office, let's say. 4 years from now, how would we measure your progress 4 years from now?
Well, one thing is when I drove around, a lot of people didn't know who their current council member was, and the person has been there for 8 years. 4 years from now, they will certainly know who I am. Everyone I speak to, they say, oh, you guys only come around when there's an election. We don't see you. They're going to see something totally different. And that's why I talk about having a mobile office. It will be a van that has a computer and has files. So I can be in different parts of the district and actually do constituent work. It so happened right now, I was on 122nd Avenue. I was talking to a woman who was complaining about an issue with speeding. And I decided to come back with a petition and got people to sign the petition to send to DOT to request the speed bump. So these are the kind of things that I do. I do it as a district manager, so I can do this. There are things that I know. And another thing, a lot of people in the district have my cell phone number.
Okay.
Yes, my cell phone number. And everybody said, oh, Marie, you're crazy that they have your cell phone number. And I said, well, you know what? I'm not afraid of the resident or the constituent who's going to call me, because when they call me, I don't have to say call my office, because if they're going to talk to me about a particular issue, I already know what needs to be done. So I can tell them, okay, listen, you're having this issue. This is what's going to be done. And I'm going to have, instead of telling them to call my office, I'm going to have so-and-so from my office call you to follow up on where we are. And that's something that they've never gotten from anyone. And that's something that I wish that I had as a resident. So I'm going to make sure that every resident in the district have that kind of access, because I know some other candidates are saying, well, there's a certain group of people that know the person and another group doesn't know the person. But the thing is, I'm already making sure that everybody knows Marie Adam-Ovide, and they see me as the person that they can call as if they were calling the neighbor next door to help them with an issue.
Awesome. And what are you going? So we have quite a few quality of life issues in the district. What would you say is the biggest quality of life issue, and how would you solve it?
There are two of them. One of them is the used trucks that park all over our district.
What do you mean, the like the abandoned one?
The 18-wheeler trucks.
Oh, okay, the
they
big
line they line Nashville Boulevard, they line Springfield Boulevard. They're all over, and it could be that we need to change so that no commercial parking
overnight.
Yes, they already have the commercial parking overnight. But then they're all commercial parking. They're not getting, I don't see any summons, because I pass on Springfield Boulevard in the morning, I pass by in the afternoon. They're still there. There is no enforcement. And then there's something else. If it costs them more money to park it in a lot than it does from getting an occasional summons, why would they want to park on the lot? They figure that the summons that they pay is the cost of doing business. So that's something that can be looked at to ensure that it is such a penalty that they'll rather have it in a lot. That's one thing.
Right.
And another thing is the dumping.
Mhm.
The dumping that we have in our communities. I know that people in the areas, they're not too thrilled about having the speeding cameras. So maybe we can think of cameras for areas that we know have dump outs. It could be a camera that's movable. So we don't have to go to the expense of installing the camera, because we do have police officers who have cameras, speed cameras, that they just hold the speed camera just to see as people go by. That could be
Right.
something that we do for illegal dumping for known areas that we know people are dumping all the time. To have a camera in a vehicle that looks like any other vehicle, but then actually recording what people are doing. Because it's the problem with when we're dumping all these things, they end up, in our water streams, and it's not good for the environment. And people need to own up to that. I mean, Southeast Queen is not a garbage can, and we don't want anyone dumping in our communities. And we're gonna make sure we
Exactly.
put a stop to that. Yes.
When you and your husband first moved here to Southeast Queens, was he already living here, or had you just discovered Southeast Queens? Like how did he, or was he living here? How did that happen?
We used to come because we had people who lived here already that we used to visit.
Okay.
We used to,
Right.
Queens Village is a very Haitian American area. we have people there that lived there for a long time. I had family who lived there as well. So so it wasn't a total, it wasn't
Like we just
yeah.
found it one day on the
No.
map, right? You had friends here.
No,
Okay.
no. So we used to come here. We used to come here a lot, and decided, because he didn't like Brooklyn. He didn't like Brooklyn. Too
Wow.
crowded. Yeah, it's easier here.
Mhm. And if you could go back to little Marie, your 12-year-old self, and give yourself some advice, what advice would it be?
Wow. Stop doubting yourself. I think maybe in part because I was raised by a teacher and a principal until I was 14 and moved here. I think there are bits of perfectionism that they have, and then that really relates itself to me, because I'm always thinking that it's not good enough. I'm not good enough, because I'm trying to improve. I'm always trying to improve. And I have to realize that, perfection doesn't exist. Striving for it is good, because it keeps you, doing better, and you know, improving what you already have. But I think that I know that I'm capable. um, I have done a very good job as district manager. I've done a very good job as a director of constituent services. I know I will do a good job as a city council woman, because I am putting the community first.
And we have 2 minutes left on the clock, and I'm going to give you those 2 minutes to make your final closing statement. Candidate Adam-Ovide, why should we vote for you?
You should vote for Marie Adam-Ovide, because I am the person with the most New York City experience. I am the person who gets things done. Other district managers in Queens are supporting me because they know about my work. They know how I advocate for my district. So the district where I want to represent in Southeast Queen, my own district, I'm going to do it even more. I'm willing to give my salary back to the community, because I know that this job is not just a salary, is not just something to put in my resume. It's not something that I'm putting there because I want to do something else. It is about purpose, about why you are here, why you on this earth, why, what can you do to leave a better place for you, for your children, and what legacy do you want to leave when people research you and find out your name? What did you do? What contribution did you make to the world? And I hope that this is something that you can understand, and hopefully that you vote for Marie Adam-Ovide when you cast your ballot as number 1. And if after all this, you're already set on someone else, I'll take number 2, I'll take number 3, I'll even take number 5. But whatever you do, make sure you rank me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
One last question. We have a few seconds left. Who's your number 2?
I'd rather not.
Are you okay? No problem. That's fair. All right. So thank you. Oh no, don't worry. It's fine. Thank you, candidate Marie Adam-Ovide, for sitting down with me today and spending the last 45 minutes talking about yourself and your plan for District 27. On behalf of A Better Jamaica, it's been my pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thanks to everyone who made this happen. Of course, the candidate in our ongoing series with the candidates from District 27. I am Gail Lewis, and it's been my pleasure to be here this afternoon. The best to you, candidate Marie Adam-Ovide, and thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you,
Take
Gail.
care. Best
Thank you,
of
A Better
luck.
Jamaica.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.